Finally, the time has come. You no longer have to choose between conventional medicine and alternative medicine. Today, unlike years past, your team of doctors from all disciplines are working together side by side for the benefit of you, the patient, to help you regain your health and cross the bridge.
Hello, and thank you for joining us on today's episode of The Bridge of Health. I'm Dr. Tom Dow Jr., I'm your host, and today we're going to be talking about a very interesting topic. It's going to be a very exciting show. We have a lot of things to talk about and discuss. But first, the main purpose of this show is to guide everyone, all the audience, into finding the correct way to get their health care, and that's called integrated health and medicine. And that's basically when all your doctors come together as a team and work like a team approach to get you to where you need to be, instead of seeing one doctor for something, another doctor for something else, and a third doctor for a different issue, and none of the doctors discussing anything together and formulating any treatment plan to get you to where you need to be. Now, today's topic is a very important topic, and it's very important for you to understand and do the right and have the right approach with your activities of daily living and things you should be doing. And this is concerning chronic dehydration. And basically, chronic dehydration is when somebody does not consume enough water, when somebody becomes dehydrated and have health effects as a result of this. I have a guest on the show today, Dr. Albert Grazia. Thank you for coming to my show, and thank you. It's a pleasure having you on my show today.
Thank you for inviting me.
You're welcome. Let's get into your credentials, and I understand you're a PhD. I understand that you teach at a certain couple universities.
Yes.
Let's get into your background and why did you want to start? What made you come into this profession?
Well, I originally got interested in natural healing about 20 years ago. Actually met a naturopath, Dr. Richard Schultz, and then went out to Santa Monica and studied herbology and natural healing with him. And that began the whole process. And then after that, I received a master's degree in nutrition from the University of Bridgeport. And after that, I went on and received my PhD in biomedical health sciences from Rutgers University.
Okay, so naturopathic medicine has always been a passion for you of some kind.
Natural healing.
Yeah,
Yes.
natural healing. Let's touch on that. What is a naturopath?
That's giving the body what it needs to heal, allowing the body to do what it does best. We have a tremendous ability to heal as long as you don't interfere. So give the body the nutrients and support it needs to heal. In my practice, I practice nutrition and natural healing, and I specialize in cancer and other serious illnesses.
Okay.
And I do take an integrative approach. So people that are undergoing chemo, I can help them to tolerate the effects of chemotherapy, so they can get through the chemo without the devastating side effects, and also, in turn, seems to make the chemo more effective.
Absolutely. Us as chiropractors, I'm a chiropractor, and we have a very, very similar belief. We believe in something called the innate intelligence.
Yeah.
And basically what innate intelligence is like Dr. Grazia mentioned, is the body's ability to heal from within given the right supplements or the right nutrients. And that healing comes from the brain. It's a natural intelligence that we're born with. And that has to do a lot with our nervous system and how that nervous system functions to heal the body from within. So we're pretty much on the same page as that aspect goes. Now, what college did you attend?
I received a master's degree from University of Bridgeport in nutrition, and my PhD was from Rutgers University.
Okay, very good. Okay, the first question that I want to ask you, Dr. Grazia, I want to ask you why is it important to consume enough water in a day's period?
Water's interesting. A lot of people take it for granted. It's often neglected. We don't realize how important it is for our health. But the biggest clue to that is that our bodies are 70 to 75% water. Life began in the water. Developing fetuses are surrounded by water, amniotic fluid. We can go maybe a couple of weeks without food, but maybe a couple of days, 2-3 days without water before serious effects take place.
I've heard that too. Actually, I did some research on that, And it seems to me like the body can only do maybe 1, 2, 3 days max without water before some serious effects happen, life-threatening. And it seems that people may be able to go weeks without food because our body stores the energy as fat, and
Right.
the fat will get converted into energy to use. But water is a different story. You have to have the water in order to survive, but the fat can be converted into energy.
Exactly. We do not have a storage of water. We have normal channels of water lost, but if we don't replenish the water, then it has to come from within our bodies.
How do we absorb water?
When we drink water, it's directly absorbed through the stomach lining, through the intestines. Water is extracted from the foods and beverages that we consume through the digestive process. But most of that water goes into each and every cell in our body. There's other water that's outside, called interstitial fluid, that aids the cells. Water is very important as a solvent for transport. Nutrients, gases, oxygen dissolved in the interstitial fluid, and that diffuses into the cells. Carbon dioxide and waste diffuse back out, and that's returned back to be
Excellent.
eliminated.
Okay. Now, I go in the gym. I'm working out. I have the choice between a Gatorade, I have the choice between a pre-workout drink, and I have the choice between water. What are the differences, and why should we consume water as opposed to the other things? What kind of things happen in the body when you take other things that may have water in them but aren't 100% water? What are the advantages of having water?
Well, water is the main ingredient in beverages. The difference is that in other beverages, you have other ingredients that the body doesn't need. Flavorings, colors, maybe artificial colors, sweeteners. If it's high fructose corn syrup, it may be a tremendous amount of sugar.
That's in every drink.
carbohydrate.
That's in every drink
Yeah.
out there, the high fructose corn syrup.
And if you go to the artificial sweeteners, that may be actually even worse.
Okay. A lot of drinks, a lot of things have the artificial sweeteners in them. What are some effects of those sorts of things? Sweet and low.
Well, aspartame, which is basically made up of 3 ingredients, 2 amino acids, phenylalanine, and aspartic acid. But the problem is it's bound to a molecule of methanol. Methanol is wood grain alcohol.
Is that a neurotoxin?
That's a neurotoxin. The aspartame, which is in free form, is considered a excitotoxin, so it can overexcite neurons. Phenylalanine can compete with tryptophan, getting into the brain, and that can also lead to depression.
Okay, excellent. So what you're saying is this can have both short-term and long-term effects on the body, these sweeteners, and it'll also affect the nervous system, how it functions.
That's correct.
Okay.
So pure water doesn't have any of the other ingredients in it. It's what the body needs. It's what every cell in our body requires. So the body doesn't have to do any work to filter out the coloring agents, the sweeteners,
Yeah.
the flavoring.
Got it.
So you have pure water going to work immediately.
Okay. I want you to discuss with our audience today the different types of waters. We have filtered water, we have distilled water, we have mineral water, and we have tap water. What are some of the properties, and how do they differ, let's say, distilled water and tap water?
Tap water is basic. Of course, depending on the region, your water supply, there could be other impurities in there. So I would prefer to filter the tap water. Distilled water may be a slight change in the molecular structure. Distilled water is good for chelating minerals. So if you're going to make tea, you can get more of the ingredients into the tea. But if you're drinking distilled water, it may act as a chelator, chelate some minerals out of your body.
Absolutely.
So it may not be
Like sodium?
It may not be a good practice to drink distilled water exclusively. Tap water, I would prefer to filter the tap water. It's readily available, and you don't have to worry about running out of water bottles.
Right.
And rationing your own water.
Okay, so in a nutshell, Dr. Grazia, if you're an athlete and you're sweating a lot and you're losing a lot of minerals, a lot of sodium from your body, if you're strictly drinking distilled water, you're not really replenishing those ions and everything back. And so somebody could actually suffer dehydration only if they drink distilled water and not with the minerals?
You can lose minerals, loss of electrolyte balances. So it's also important if you're working on drinking water to make sure you're getting an adequate sodium intake.
Okay.
Sodium has gotten a bad reputation. Too much is certainly no good, but too little is also
It's no good, yeah.
also very
So it has to be
dangerous.
taken in moderation.
The key with sodium is if you're drinking enough water, the body can excrete the excess sodium. If you're taking excess sodium but not enough water, the body doesn't have the luxury of releasing the sodium because it has to retain the sodium to retain the water.
So it'll boost your blood pressure up to the...
Correct.
Okay. All right. I want to ask you a question. How does the body cope with this thing called dehydration?
The body has mechanisms to compensate, and it's known as a drought management system. One of the first things that happens is a neurotransmitter called histamine is released. And histamine, we're familiar with, involved with allergic reactions. So histamine is going to make blood vessel more permeable, so it's going to act as a redistributor of the water. And the body has a priority system. If there's a deficiency of resources, the top priority is the brain, central nervous system, and then the internal organs. So what's considered not vital is not going to get resources if they're in short supply. And that could include the skin, the joints. And so those areas are going to start to suffer. The other system that the body has to regulate the situation of chronic dehydration is to reduce the loss of water through the normal channels. So that means the kidneys would not be making as much urine. There's hormone release called antidiuretic hormone. It tells the kidneys to retain water and actually concentrate the urine. And in doing so, that actually puts more stress on the kidneys. It makes the kidneys work harder. There's also another hormone called aldosterone that may also come into play, and that would involve retaining sodium to retain water. And these two hormones both can increase blood pressure.
Excellent. All right, so what you're saying, Dr. Grazzi, is it's very taxing on the body, especially the kidneys. The kidneys will take a blunt of the hit with dehydration,
Exactly.
and kidneys is a very vital organ. It maintains a lot of things in the body, and without the kidneys, as the audience knows, if you don't have kidneys, you can't function.
Exactly.
All right, you can't live.
That strain is over time. Once you damage the nephrons, which are the functional units of the kidneys, they're gone forever. You don't replace them. The other thing is that the people used to think that in the old days, if you drank a lot of water, you urinated excessively. I mean, the kidneys are working hard. It's actually the converse is true.
Mm-hmm.
By not urinating as much, the kidneys are working a lot harder, straining to concentrate the urine.
Well, the kidneys' function is to filter things out of the
Right.
blood.
And unfortunately, when they're making less urine, they're actually reabsorbing a lot of the fluid that they filtered. Antidiuretic hormone works on a section of the kidneys called a collecting duct. A collecting duct collects urine. The reabsorption of fluid is from the collecting duct. So you're actually almost reabsorbing urine back into the system. So that's work that the kidneys did to filter the urine.
Which is toxic.
Exactly.
It's toxins that we need to get out.
And that's more work now for the liver and then for the kidneys to refilter that fluid. The other means of slowing the loss of water is through the stool. So the colon then has to reabsorb much more water out of the stool, and that's going to make the stools a lot harder. And in turn, it's going to also irritate the walls of the colon. So then people can start forming pockets and get a situation called diverticulosis. If they get infected, they get a situation called diverticulitis and a trip to the emergency room. In reabsorbing water from the colon, that's not filtered water. The colon's not filtering that water back in your system. That's basically sewer water that's going back in your system. So more work again for your kidneys and for your liver.
And it's going to affect the whole body.
It's going to affect the
It's
whole
toxic.
body. And as the colon muscles are working harder, straining to reabsorb more water, you're stressing the colon muscles, and that could also cause spasms.
Okay.
And people complain of situation called spastic colon.
Okay. All right, very good. So these are some health effects. These are more long-term health effects
Yes.
of dehydration.
Yeah, it's not overnight. This is years and
Yeah.
years of chronic dehydration.
Now, I suffered with something in the past called acid reflux disease, GERD, gastroesophageal reflux disease. That's what the abbreviation stands for. And basically what that is it's when stomach acid, it deviates upward instead of staying in the stomach. And when that happens, it can actually erode the lining of the esophagus.
Yep.
Because those cells are not meant to hold the stomach acid and not support the stomach acid. They're a different type of cell. When that happens, it causes inflammation. And that inflammation over time, if that problem is not dealt with, can be precancerous or cancerous over a long period of time. Would you say that this type of condition and this type of syndrome is linked to dehydration?
Yes. Dyspepsia, problems with digestion, actually is one of the first symptoms of chronic dehydration. Water is very important for the entire digestive process, from start to finish. You need to maintain saliva flow. You need water to produce the mucus to protect the gastric lining so that the hydrochloric acid doesn't erode it. And without enough water, if you don't maintain that protection, then you irritate the gastric lining and you begin with an inflammation called gastritis, and then that continues and you can develop gastric ulcers.
Right, gastritis, and then eventually esophagitis, which is the inflammation of the
Right.
esophagus.
And in order to buffer the acid that's in the stomach, when it leaves the stomach and proceeds to the duodenum, first section of the small intestine, we need to buffer that acid, and that's done with bicarbonate ions that's produced, secreted by the pancreas. And we need a good amount of water to be able to deliver those bicarbonate ions. If the pancreas is not able to produce that in time, food is going to remain in the stomach longer. And that means the food and the acid is going to be churning in the stomach, and that's more constant upward pressure on the lower esophageal sphincter. And if that weakens over time, it can't do its job and keep the stomach contents in the stomach, and that's going to start to bubble up into the esophagus.
And ladies and gentlemen, this condition, just to let you know, this condition of GERD, which is gastroesophageal reflux disease, is commonly talked about as being heartburn. Heartburn has nothing to do with the heart. It has to do with the acid deviating upward and actually burning the esophagus and burning those cells and causing inflammation. And then that's the symptom that somebody feels. They call it, quote unquote, heartburn. So just to clarify that to everyone that's watching.
That was the old term for it because it was...
it's close.
It was
it's close to the organ, yeah, sure.
So that's why they called it heartburn in the old days. Now we have a fancier term for it.
Yeah. All right, so let's talk about hypertension, increased blood pressure that we touched on earlier, and that's it could be a direct result from chronic dehydration.
Yes.
Let's get into the mechanism about that and how that
Okay.
works.
Let me explain. There are a lot of other causes for hypertension, but this could be one contributing factor. When you're dehydrated, I mentioned the body secretes a hormone called antidiuretic hormone. And that hormone has another name. It's also known as vasopressin.
Mm-hmm.
And that stands for vascular pressure. So it's going to constrict the blood vessels. And by constricting your blood vessels, you're going to increase your blood pressure. The other hormone that's released during times of dehydration is aldosterone. So you're activating a system called the renin-angiotensin-aldosterone system, and that's going to tell the kidneys to retain sodium. By retaining sodium, you retain water, and that's also going to increase blood pressure.
Okay.
The two medications that are commonly given for hypertension, one is used initially as a diuretic. And that could be a problem if the person is
they're already dehydrated.
dehydrated. That can make the situation worse. Eventually, the other type of medication that's given for hypertension is known as an ACE inhibitor. It stands for an angiotensin-converting enzyme inhibitor, and that's to suppress the renin-angiotensin-aldosterone system.
Got it.
So both cases, if dehydration is a factor, that can actually complicate the situation.
Make it worse. Okay. Let's talk about people that might experience pain in their joints, pain in the knees, shoulders, maybe their spine. Dehydration just to let you guys know, dehydration can cause some of these pains only because the structures that are in between the bones, they are composed of a cartilage, and that cartilage might not have a blood flow to it. And typically our muscles and everything get the nutrients that we need through our bloodstream. Our muscles get the nutrients through the blood that goes into them. Eventually that blood carries nutrients that'll go into the muscle and help to replenish the muscle. These joints, the cartilage does not contain, most of the cartilage in our body doesn't contain the vascular component, which will bring the blood to them, and they work through diffusion.
Yes.
Let's get into that, and how can water help to heal these structures and make them stronger and make them more fluid and more cushion?
Exactly. The ends of our bones are protected by a layer of cartilage that has a cushioning effect. But every time we move, we erode a little bit of that cartilage. As long as we can repair the damage, then it's not going to be a problem. But he said the cartilage is considered avascular, meaning there's no blood vessels. In order to deliver the nutrients, it has to be done by diffusion that comes from down from the bone itself. And the joints are not considered a top priority for the body. So if there's not enough water to go around, the joints are not going to get the delivery of nutrients.
Exactly.
But one of the some of the supplements that people take for joints commonly take glucosamine sulfate, chondroitin sulfate, MSM. The key there is the sulfur. It's not the glucosamine, it's the sulfate. Those are all sources of sulfur, and sulfur is an important mineral for cartilage repair. But as long as you're well hydrated, then you have the ability to deliver the nutrient to the joint, to the cartilage to be repaired. If you take the supplement without being well hydrated, then it's like leaving the package on the loading dock. It's not going to get delivered to the
Got
joint.
it. Okay. All right. Quick question for you. I'm a bodybuilder. I do competitions, bodybuilding competitions, and I know the last couple of days before the competition, where your body's not having a lot of carbohydrates, you're not drinking a lot of water, you may be depleted in sodium ions, which holds water in the body. The brain starts to get a little bit loopy at the end. That is a direct effect of dehydration. I want you to elaborate a little bit on that and a little bit on how important that is not to happen for the brain.
Exactly. They said the body is about 70 to 75% water. However, the brain is about 80 to 85% water. So it's very important for brain function to be well hydrated. So if there's not enough water to go around, the brain is going to react. A lot of the hydroelectrical activity that goes on in the brain needs a good amount of water. You also need to be properly hydrated in order to deliver tryptophan into the brain. Tryptophan converts to a neurotransmitter called serotonin, and that's important for mood. At night, serotonin converts to melatonin, that's important to help us fall asleep. So without enough water, we can't deliver tryptophan to the brain. So that's also going to affect mood. Lack of water will affect brain function, and what goes first are the higher function, cognitive functions. And as brain function continually go down and become depressed, then you become depressed along with it.
Okay, excellent. Now, how can somebody tell if they're properly hydrated or if they're dehydrated? Is there any way of telling?
Yes.
Okay.
Very simple way of monitoring whether you're drinking enough water, and that's simply by the color of your urine. Contrary to popular belief, urine should not be yellow in color, but that's what commonly is the case for most people. Urine should be fairly clear, very light in color. So if your urine is still coming out dark or yellow, that's an indication that you're most likely dehydrated. So if you drink enough water, and the usual amount should be about 2 quarts a day, then you'll notice that the urine will come out a lot clearer. And that's also indication the kidneys are also working less.
So
less
dark urine, no good.
Right.
Medium urine,
A little better.
A little better.
Not quite.
Clear, perfect.
Clear, that's it. That's
All
the
right,
goal.
so that's, ladies and gentlemen, that's the guidelines that you should be going by. Drink at least eight glasses of water a day.
And also, I just want to caution people that if you've been chronically dehydrated for many years, don't start drinking 8 glasses of water all at once.
So you should ease into
gradually
it.
increase
Okay.
maybe a glass or two over a several-week period.
Does coffee dehydrate you?
Coffee and alcohol both very dehydrating. They both have diuretic effects. Alcohol suppresses antidiuretic hormone, so that causes us to urinate excessively. Coffee also inhibits the retention of sodium, so that has another diuretic effect.
Coffee is one of the most highest consumed products
Yeah.
in the U.S. So people, ladies and gentlemen, if you're drinking coffee, it's very important to get the water in there every
Water.
day.
And if you're drinking, you should drink responsibly, but replenish the water loss. So drink a glass of water with each drink, because hangover the next day, that's from serious,
Yeah.
severe dehydration. People don't realize that.
Okay.
But
So
if
the
you-
hangover is a symptom.
A symptom of severe dehydration.
Perfect.
So if you're drinking, drink responsibly, but have a glass of water with each drink.
All right, excellent. Now, I understand that you're doing a program come in the future, in the near future. It's a Doctor of Health Sciences program.
Yes.
That's a program that you're going to be putting on personally, and it's a degree.
Yes, it's an accredited degree. I'm working with a major institution, university, developing this program.
That's got to be exciting.
Yes, we applied, we submitted our application to the State Office of Higher Education,
Uh-huh.
waiting for approval. So I can't give any more details, but if anybody is interested, this is designed for clinicians with a master's degree, instructors with a master's degree who would like to receive their doctorate.
Okay.
Say
Can somebody holding a doctorate also apply for something like that?
If they want, they
Okay,
can.
so it's a choice. It's optional.
But if they want, I can't give any more specific information until the application is approved. But if they want, they can contact me through email. If they're interested, and once the application is approved, I can submit their information.
Excellent. Okay, Dr. Grazia, I want you to give the audience your information. I understand you have a website and an email
Yes.
address if they need to get in contact with you.
Yes.
Um,
Yes, my email is naturepath, NATUREPATH, @optonline.net. That's naturepath@optonline.net. I also have a website, www.naturedoc, NATUREDOC.info, INFO.
Perfect. I think that's going to wrap it up. But before we end, I want to cheers, and I'll drink water to that. Thank you very
Thank
much
you.
for having us on our show. We'll return next week. If you're watching us on Madhousetv, stay tuned. If you're watching us on Optimum, on Cablevision, we'll see you next time. Thank you. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Okay.